Hello YouTube, December 12th, 2019, and we back with another Tulsi Gabbard video. This one is going to be a special one separated from the 7-part series, so y'all getting a little bit of bonus, because I recognize that her domestic issues cover several policies, and I touched on a couple of them. I touched on civil liberties within the first video, and then I also touched on gun safety legislation in the second video. So this video is going to be for net neutrality, raise the rage, education policy, nationwide nurses shortage, and the infrastructure. So this is going to be a special video outside the series, and then we'll start off with the third part of the series with climate change, coral reefs, DAPA, environmental farm, and all of that. But now getting into the first part, net neutrality, which is a very important topic, because the way with net neutrality, it makes it almost impossible now for anybody to get accurate information. You know, YouTube with having the ability to shadow ban content. Google can be sort of iffy with the search results, and then on top of that, now they making it where your cable provider / internet provider can, determine if there's an upcharge to go to certain websites. And YouTube is like the #1 visual source out there in the world right now. So, and it's like they want you to stay with established news. So what can happen is now you could be in a situation where your bill can go up drastically if you are streaming constantly YouTube, because a lot of people are going from from TV to YouTube, because hell, I don't even watch my TV no more. I only watch it for my soap operas, and hell, I watch my soap operas online too, because it is not even within my cable package. I done decreased my darn on cable package, where the only thing I watch is like the Love and Hip Hop and Basketball Wives. And if you ain't watching it through a VPN, they'll try to slow down your darn connection. I mean, that is just a mess, honey. I mean, net neutrality, if y'all been sleeping on the rock, it affects a lot of things. It affects the potential ability of you getting third-party news without it being filtered through like a MSNBC and Fox News and all of that. It affects how you can just watch your regular shows in general without having to pay, the cable companies. They trying to, keep us forced to pay these $200-300 darn on cable. But bitch, I ain't about to, honey. I turned my boxes in, and I'm glad to only be paying now about $107. Shoot, I was paying upwards of $180 damn dollars. But anyways, let's get into the Tulsi's points on this. I done rambled enough. But Tulsi Gabbard on net neutrality key points. Also, okay, she starts off with the key points. Tulsi strongly supports net neutrality as a cornerstone of our democracy. Okay, I guess I've said the way I was saying it was confusing. They repealed net neutrality. So if y'all was thinking that net neutrality is bad, no, net neutrality is good. But the way that I just explained it, I know that sounds so weird, but the way I explained it, it came off as if net neutrality is bad. Net neutrality keeps everything neutral, but with them repealing it now, everything is open to be potentially bad. Everything that I just mentioned can happen without net neutrality in place. So Tulsi strongly supports net neutrality, and she goes into explaining in a better way than what I just explained how it ensures a level playing field for everyone on the internet. Large corporations have backed the repeal of net neutrality. Also, ending net neutrality promotes pay-to-play politics, enabling those with the most money to have the biggest voice. Like I said, the Spectrums of the world. We seen what's going on with Comcast and Brian Allen and P. Diddy, who owns Revolt, and I think 50 Cent owns Stars. I definitely know he was the creator of Power, which was on Stars, but I think he also owns the Stars Network, which I think they just took off of major stations as of December the 10th. So 2 days ago, if you got Spectrum, if you got DirecTV and Dish, you no longer have Stars. Now, I don't know, because I got my Spectrum app. I don't got the regular spectrum package anymore to verify that, but I think they done took it off the service for where you can't even get it at all as of December the 10th because of pricing issues. So yeah, this net neutrality really keeps everything neutral, and now without it in place, it's causing a whole lot of hoopla, honey. But it goes, she goes further to say net neutrality is essential to protect our First Amendment rights, and open internet helps level the playing field for all. Yes, it does. And then she quickly goes into citing HR 196, Online Competition and Consumer Choice Act of 2015, to prohibit multi-tier pricing agreements between ISPs and content providers. HR 2666, Tulsi voted no on legislation to repeal net neutrality, the No Rate Regulation of Broadband Internet Access Act. And then she got her statement videos down below. Okay, next is going to raise the wage. Okay, basically everybody on the Democratic side, for the most part, I think for the exception of Biden, is on the $15 an hour minimum wage. I done told y'all personally, I'm against fully raising the wage to $15 an hour until we get other people to a comfortable level first. Like, I don't think a teacher, a firefighter, a RN should be making the same as an entry level person, period. So we should gradually raise it to $12 first, and then $15 an hour maybe in the year 2028, after we see how the adjustments with other people between the $12 to $17 hour rate goes. Now, they, at least with her, she does say 2024. She says, along with Senator Bernie Sanders and Democratic leaders, Tulsi introduces the wage to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour by 2024. See, I was originally with them on maybe 2028, but now they trying to pander and trying to promise 2024, and it's like, no, that's too soon. And it's like, now we definitely need to raise it, but let's make it where, once again, our people who fall in that awkward tax bracket, our call center representatives, our registered nurses, our firefighters, let's make them get their rate raised first and be able to adjust to their new rate, and then you raise it over to to $15 an hour. And like I said, I think 2028 would have been a more appropriate time to gauge to see if you can raise it up by then, but I'm still stuck on 12 myself. Adjusted for inflation, about 40% of today's workers earn less than the minimum wage in 1968. The Raise Wage Act will give more than 41 million low-wage workers a raise, increasing the wage of almost 30% of the U.S. workforce. Okay. And then here's the legislation she got. H.R. 15, Raise the Wage Act. H.R. 582, Raise the Wage Act. So I guess this is a continuation of the previous one. And then H.R. 1869, Paycheck Fairness Act to address wage discrimination across the United States. Her videos down below to support it, which I implore y'all to look at. Oh shoot, we getting across these pretty fast today. I thought this would at least be a half-hour video. I told y'all in my last video it might be a half hour. It might only be about 15 to 20 minutes. Speaking too fast, I can't even darn gone properly articulate myself, y'all. So, Tulsi Gabbard on education policy. So, Tulsi has fought for education on many levels, including free college, improving flexibility and support for teachers and education, funding for Native Hawaiian education programs, funding for Hawaiian schools. I think the only thing that distinguishes her from like the Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warrens is that she focuses on her home state of Hawaii, which I guess is not getting much love in the grand scheme of things, before she has to put the emphasis on Hawaii. And then it goes into mentioning H.R. 3218. Tulsi helped introduce extended approved GI Bill Harry W. Comey Veterans Education Assistance of 2017 to approve and extend GI Bill benefits granted to veterans, their surviving spouses, and dependents. The bill passed with bipartisan support. Continuing on to H.R. 1177, Every Student Succeeds Act, to give states more flexibility to determine the best way to measure success in their schools and provide support for innovation, teacher quality, STEM education, etc. H.R. 895, Native Hawaiian Education Act, to provide funding to support. Okay, I'm guessing that might be a typo error. Somebody accidentally typed two times. To support innovative education activities to increase student achievement among Native Hawaiians. H.R. 1880, College for All Act, which will eliminate tuition and fees at four-year public colleges and universities for families that make up to $125,000 a year, and it would make community college tuition fee free for everyone. Tulsi helped secure $47 million in federal funding for Hawaii schools. Okay, it's safe to say that she might got Hawaii's vote out the bag. Too bad that they only come with about like 3 electoral college votes, but every electoral college vote matters. But that's why I prefer the popular vote system, because it's like, I feel like states such as Hawaii get the short end of the stick when it's like, well, if you put this on the electoral scale, it's like you could afford to ignore them all together and just focus on going to this state instead. Because you notice that during all these elections, they just feel like Hawaii's in the bag. So it's like, we just need to focus on the mid-ground caucus states. And then, since we've been causing trouble in the South, as you know, foundational Black Americans, ADOS, Black Americans, American descendants of chastised slavery, DOA, whichever acronym that you want to apply to Black people who have been here more than 3 generations, we have started swinging Southern states into swing states, such as, Georgia, North Carolina. South Carolina, I think, is still pretty conservative. But definitely North Carolina has swung into a swing. And surprisingly, Alabama. I'm like, okay, come on through, Alabama. My daddy, Alabama. Honey, Beyonce done woken some of y'all up down in Alabama, honey. Montgomery, Alabama, baby. But anyways, with the rise of Black people being fed up, these southern states now have to pivot towards Black issues. They have to pivot towards economic issues as well, because, honey, the white people in the South ain't doing too good either, honey. It's more white people darn on struggling than some of those Black folks here. Now, we have to deal with racism, but, honey, y'all have to deal with the classism just along with our Black behind. So it is a myriad of issues going on in the southern states, and those have the higher, electoral college votes. I think North Carolina, we have like 14 electoral college votes, which is over 4 times as much as Hawaii. So they're going to focus on us a lot more than Hawaii, versus if you did it by a popular vote system, you would try to get around to every state to guarantee as many people as possible, because then it would be based off the individual vote of the person, as opposed to the rigged electoral college system. Because when somebody wins the popular vote by more than 3 million and still loses the election, there's a darn gone problem. But yeah, she definitely looked like she's gonna have Hawaii's vote in the bag nonetheless. Now, it's my thoughts on the 4-year school. I'm glad she at least puts a limit on it. I think Bernie Sanders is completely for it. No matter how much money you make, the university is free, and I think that's a little too much spending the money at that moment. I prefer to just limit it to tuition free, 2-year 2-year colleges and trade schools. University, I'm still a little bit I'm still a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Not on board with it per se. However, I guess if you put a price limit in it, I think we might can lower this maybe to $100,000. I won't be totally opposed against it. At least she's setting up some parameters. She's more like Elizabeth Warren when it comes to here. Like she knows how to propose grand ideals, but grand ideals within more reason. She's not too far out there like Bernie Sanders, where she proposes something where it's so out there where you can't even bring up the finances of how you're going to end up being able to pay for it. Now, she doesn't mention how she's going to be able to pay for it with this either. However, limiting it, I'm sure she probably has a plan of how to go by doing this, especially within her statement videos down here. She probably goes over all of that. We just don't got time to, look at all of these points right here, because like I said in my last video, I nicknamed her the Queen of Receipts. So she got plenty of receipts, probably telling us how this would go by being funded and everything. Because she definitely got enough, links from Hawaii delegation announces $47 million education funding for local schools, Gabbard Veterans Act, and the list goes on and on. So next to last is we got nationwide nurses shortage. I think she's the first candidate I think mentioned nurses specifically. I haven't heard any other candidate that mentioned a nurse directly. And y'all know I've viewed nearly everybody's, from Bernie Sanders. I looked over his. I haven't seen nurses in his. Andrew Yang, Marion Williamson, Kamala Harris, Cory Booker. I even looked at Donald Trump's, believe it or not. She's the first that I've recalled that's actually mentioned the nursing field. So nursing shortages in Hawaii and across the country are putting patient health at risk and increasing healthcare costs. Tulsi helped sponsor bipartisan legislation to help provide nurses with training, education, and financial support. National Nurses United Director and National Nurses United Director Roseanne DiMario have thanked Tulsi for her dedication on these important issues. Tulsi is the co-chair of the House Nursing Caucus. Okay, I guess that's why she would have a special, bill dedicated to the nurses. And she has proposed H.R. 959 Nursing Workforce Reauthorization Act, H.R. 5052 Registered Nurse Safe Staffing Act, H.R. 5223 Healthcare Workplace Violence Prevention. We have a severe, that goes into reiterating the severe shortage of nurses. Then she goes in to talk about the Healthcare Workplace Violence Prevention Act addresses a glaring need. In 2014, 52% of all workplace violence involved healthcare workers. Nurses and healthcare workers' personal safety must be guaranteed so that they can provide patients with the best care possible, honey. Make sure to bring some down near the Ville, baby, honey. How many of y'all heard about Cape Kill, honey, aka Cape Fear Valley? They just had a shooting the other day. Now it ain't, how can I say it? Allegedly, it's already a 50-50 chance that the nurses might kill you there. Anybody who's born and raised here, y'all know what I'm talking about. You go in for one thing, and then it seems like all of a sudden they find several other things, you might not make it out that bitch. But this time, somebody done went up there, and it's not uncommon for somebody to go shoot the place out. It's been plenty of times where Cape Fear Valley has done stuff that's pissed people off. But in this case, it's one of those situations where it was like, they had a prisoner there, and the prisoner managed to overtake the police officer, shoot the police officer, and the other officer that was in the hospital managed to shoot him before he escaped. So it was a prisoner situation in the Cape Fear Valley, as opposed to the last times before. It's been domestic violence issues in the hospital. It's been some staff issues in the hospital, and then it's like, where was the guards then? Hell, I mean, it's so many stories to tell by Cape Fear Valley. That's a darn old story within its own. So, honey, in addition to getting more nurses, make sure they are well qualified nurses. Make sure they ain't the darn old type of nurses where when certain shit pops off, when you should be calling the cops, you too busy darn gone boning in one of the empty darn gone rooms down in the hallway, honey. Yeah, that's the type of shit that we got going on. Like, Cape Fear Valley is like ER, honey. Y'all know ER that used to come on back in the day on TNT, where they used to have all this, what you would think was unrealisticness in the workplace with doctors and other professionals. Honey, Cape Fear does all of that bullshit, allegedly. Honey, and I'm only saying that so they don't sue a girl. But yeah, make sure you hiring more more professional, qualified nurses. And especially black nurses. I mentioned, I don't know what video I was mentioning. Oh, in the ADOS video that I just uploaded. I uploaded the video breaking down ADOS in its full entirety. I got a part 2 coming up next week where I would go into what their plans is for reparations. But I already mentioned my part of what I think the financial disbursement should be about. But I touched on about the lack of black nurses and doctors within the medical field, and it is very serious when you have artists such as Beyonce, athletes such as Serena Williams, and reality stars such as Kenya Moore, all multi-million, well, not Kenya, but Serena and Beyonce, multi-millionaires, very wealthy women, both died because of lack of medical, attention in the hospital. Now, these women are worth tens of millions of dollars. Both of them are worth 9 figures. So it's definitely not for the lack of funds. These women have enough where they can book out the whole darn on medical staff to treat just them. And due to the double standards of not knowing about black women anatomy and our issues and needs and stuff in the darn on treatment room, and for the women who are fortunate enough to able to give birth and all of that, we need to also focus on not only hiring nurses but make sure that proportionately there are nurses for every racial gap. So black people, we make up 15% of the population, so there should be at least 15% of nurses that are hired, so that way there is an equal chance that black women will get more care when they go through birth and other feminine issues such as fibroids, cervical cancer, and all of that stuff that affects the bottom area of a woman that they do not properly get when they're conversing with white doctors for whatever reason. And I won't even chop it up to racism. I think it's just a lack of knowledge when it comes to how black women are as opposed to white women as far as medical diagnosis. It's like even with the books and stuff, the imagery and stuff is just white women, and you learn about the anatomy of just white women, but there's no studies and tests. Like even with medications, it's always from the perspective of the white woman, but you poll how many black women were part of the study, it typically comes up 0. So we definitely need to change that narrative around. So hopefully she'll add that into her bill as well to address the the double standards with minorities, specifically black women and also brown skinned women as well, because I understand that there could be some language barriers with the Latinos, and she's Samoan, so I'm sure, but then Samoans, they speak English, I believe, but Hawaii is a Spanish speaking, so if they over here in a different state, I'm sure there's been times where there's been double standards with predominantly Spanish speaking people having troubles, in the hospital. So it needs to be proportionally fair across the board. But they represent 18% of the population, so there should be some more brown skinned girls in the nursing field as well, in addition to black girls. So black nurses and brown nurses definitely need to be amongst the priority as well. And I would think Tulsi Gabbard would be on board with that, considering that she's a brown skinned woman herself. So last but not least is infrastructure. So Tulsi recognizes our country's infrastructure, including highways, bridges, airports, transportation, safety, and public transit projects should be a critical priority for federal investment. Much of our infrastructure isn't able to keep up with the current and growing needs of our nation. Tulsi has pushed for renewed investments in infrastructure while cutting costs from counterproductive regime change wars abroad. And she has definitely been a real component of speaking out against regime war changes on the debate stage. And here are the bills that she has supported. H.R. 22, Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act, FAST. Ironically, that's the same acronym as our transit station here in Fayetteville Area System of Transit. But FAST reauthorized critical funding for highway, bridge, transportation, safety, and public transit projects in the U.S. through 2020, including more than $1.3 billion in federal transportation funds for Hawaii. Honey, like I said, it's just safe to say she got the vote for Hawaii, honey. H.R. 4836 is bipartisan legislation that was passed extending protections Hawaii's and Alaska's rural airports as part of these states' critical infrastructure. H.R. 1782, Passenger Fee Restructuring Exemptions Act to limit the passenger security fee for Hawaii, Alaskan, and rural populations that rely on air travel. H.R. 6427, READI Act to improve emergency alert system, the EAS, and wireless emergency alert, which the acronym is WEA. H.R. 5609, water affordability, transparency, equity, and reliability. Oh, they made it just like the acronym of water. Okay. Act to make critical improvements to our drinking water and wastewater infrastructure. And last but certainly not least, H.R. 8, which is the Water Resources Development Act, WRDA, of 2018, providing $199 million for Hawaii Alahawe watershed. And then she got the statement videos down below. And that wraps it up. I told y'all, honey, this is the first time I said that a video was going to be a certain time frame, and we actually hit the mark for once. Y'all know usually my long-winded behind will be like, it's going to be a half hour, and then the video ends up being like an hour and some change. But we wrapped it up just short of a half hour this time. But I'm still going to put the timestamps below. Y'all love the timestamps to quickly zoom to certain parts that y'all would prefer to look at more. So I still do that even with this video being short. So that is it in a nutshell, y'all. Y'all give me y'all thoughts on her domestic issues and how y'all think it stands up against several other people such as Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and the other list of 20-some candidates running. I think it's pretty solid. And like I said, especially Hawaii, it should be no reason why she shouldn't have Hawaii on lock, honey. How much she's mentioned them specifically. Hell, and other candidates haven't mentioned their darn state specifically. So Tulsi definitely has state pride for her Hawaii state, honey, because the fact that Kamala Harris, she really dropped the ball when it came to California. California. That's another thing she could point out against, Kamala, if she was still in the race, how much she's focused specifically on mentioning issues local to the state of Hawaii, even though it only has 3 electoral college votes. But darn on California has one of the 3 largest electoral college darn on states. It's Texas, New York, and California are the 3 largest darn on electoral college votes out of all the darn on states. And you're part of California as the senator, and you lack so much on mentioning specific. I mean, especially with the I didn't hear darn on Kamala mention nothing about the wildfires out there killing people left and right, and coming up with some infrastructure to hook people's houses up with special water. That way it can save, the damage of all the houses being destroyed every year. Because that the state has the propensity to catch on fire every year. So I don't understand why at this point in the game we don't come up with technology to hook up where soon as fire is detected coming towards people's mansions, because it's the mansions that get burned up too in the areas. So it's like you can't say you don't have the money to fund this, because most of the people who are in those areas are multimillionaires. You telling me you can't come out with some groundwater technology where it starts to shoot out the foam and stuff? That way your mansion is secured. We can also start coming out with some ventilation, stuff to suck up the toxic smoke and stuff in the air. Like, we can't start coming out with that. Making sure your roof is shot down with water and stuff. That way your roof don't catch up on fire. With the stuff that we have available to us now in 2019 going into 2020, is no reason in the world that there should still be mansions burning down in California. Now, I can understand the local doggone house or so, for the hard working class, which we can still provide some low cost, technology that can operate the same way within those areas as well. But damn sure this should already been applied to the mansions. She ain't mentioned nothing like that. She didn't darn gonna mention about how her state won the the case in regards to hair, and now jobs no longer can, talk about texture discrimination. And you would think her as a black woman, she would have really homed in on that point. But of course, since she's a black woman with the wavy, naturally straight hair, because we have yet to see her natural curl pattern. It's always straight, but it's safe to say her naturalness is probably like a 2B, 2C with them Asian roots, honey. So once again, can't really relate. All of those that Tulsi Gabbard would have been able to get Kamala on if she would have stayed in the race. So I guess it's a good thing that Miss Wannabe Sisters out the waist, honey. But needless to say, we ain't going to go into the darn gone reminiscent of the deeds that Tulsi could have did to Kamala. What are y'all thoughts on her bills in general? I know I don't run into a little tangent real quick, but just thinking about, the state pride and stuff, it just made me think of how Kamala just dropped the ball with California. It's like, how in the hell you allow Tulsi to show you that she has more state pride in your state, and your darn gone state counts for damn near the second largest electoral college votes in the whole damn election process. Girl, you dropped the ball again. You out the race and you still losing up against Tulsi, honey. But let's see if darn gone Tulsi can cause some of these other people to lose as well, because she still got a long climb to go, and she still looks favorable in my book. So look out for the remaining 5 videos in the series that I'm doing with Tulsi. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure the notification bell's on so you won't miss the video. And I'll see y'all soon with more videos. Mwah.